Welcome back to Mystically Soul. My name is Lisa, and I hope you all are doing well out there. I hope you're all vibing high and, received some downloads and insights in this last Pisces full moon. So today I came on here to talk about things that you're going to expect during your spiritual awakening / healing journey. So I made a list of 10 things that you might expect along the way on your journey. This is from my experience, obviously. So, what I speak on may or may not resonate with you, or you may be experiencing like some part of what I speak about, depending on where you're at in your journey. Another thing to take into consideration is that astrology really matters, and what I experience may resonate with to a greater or lesser extent depending on what your astrology is. So, for example, my Mercury is in Pisces. I have a Pisces stellium, so my Mercury, Venus, and Mars are all in Pisces. And if you know anything about Pisces, it's very dreamy, mystical, could have a tendency to be kind of like a little bit out there. And that's why I write notes, because with my Mercury in Pisces, like if I try to do it off the dome, I'm going to go all over the place, and I probably won't even touch on like the crucial points that I'm trying to touch on. So, just to ensure that I stay on track, I like using notes. And so, that's just for me, right? So it's like me understanding my astrology. And so, it goes for also the things that I'll speak about. You may or may not be as emotional. You may or may not be as triggered, right? So depending on your astrology, your placements, and that kind of thing, you'll experience these things maybe to like a greater or lesser extent. Okay, so that being said, let's get into it. Okay, so number one, when you're starting on your spiritual awakening / healing journey, you will probably start to question the nature of your reality. Some people refer to it as a dark night of the soul, which essentially is when you experience an expansion of your consciousness. And with that expansion of your consciousness, you start to see that your life, your physical reality, is not in alignment with your expansion in consciousness, right? So, you're kind of left to feel maybe a little bit shaky. You might experience like a depression or anxiety. So depression is kind of dwelling on the past. Anxiety is worrying about the future. And, you're starting to see like, things that happened to me, that wasn't right, or, I should have dealt with things differently, right? So you're kind of like questioning who you are, your reality and that kind of thing. So this is sort of like the entryway into a spiritual awakening. And then, so what I would recommend if you're new to your awakening and your healing journey, is to really try to stay in the present moment beyond learning your astrology. and there's also human design, which is really helpful. I think it's a helpful tool in, better understanding like what you came into this world expressing, right? It's not really who you are as much as it is an expression that you came into this world Um, these are the tools that you were given to work with. And, then at that point, once you understand your astrology, you understand your human design, it removes some of the guilt, fear, and shame around who you are and how you express yourself, right? So, for example, I'm an Aries sun and a Leo moon and a Libra rising. So, I'm very fiery. I have a tendency towards dramatics. I am an introvert, but I do like to be the center of attention. My Libra rising, I like pretty things. I like jewelry and feathers, and I like to be put together. And that's not to say that anybody who doesn't like those things or who isn't like that is not on my level, or, they have issues, or, I'm not going to feel bad for being fiery. But at the same time, I understand that I need to learn how to ground some of that fiery energy. With my Libra rising, sometimes what I've had to learn to overcome is not being so conciliatory, not, being so people pleasing. That's a big thing for Libra risings. It's like, just make sure everything's fine and, not going to ruffle any feathers, right? So these are some of the things that, just because I came into the world with this expression doesn't necessarily mean this is how I have to express myself. I get to choose how much fire I bring or how much balance I bring, right? And also it kind of, like I said, releases some of the fear, guilt, and shame around being who you are. Like, I exploded when I was unhealed because that's a part of my nature, and I was expressing myself from an unhealed place, right? So you have a better understanding and you can give yourself grace, because you better understand your personality in this incarnation, right? So again, obviously, like, delving into those things, but being in the present moment, practicing mindfulness. If you don't have a meditation practice or a mindfulness practice, I would definitely highly recommend incorporating that into your daily routine. And ask spirit, your higher self, God, whoever, the divine, whoever, you feel can give you guidance, your ancestors, Mama Universe, whoever you feel like can help guide you. Ask for help, ask for guidance, ask to be, guided towards your true purpose, your soul's desire, right? Those kind of things. Speak it into the universe, and you'll be surprised. The intuition that your intuition grows, and then you sort of are led through signs, synchronicities, feelings, to where you need to go. So I would definitely, focus on the present moment, focus on, being still, being quiet, and asking for guidance. Okay, so number 2, on what to expect during your spiritual/healing journey is mood swings. So again, take into account that, you might be experiencing this to a greater or lesser degree, depending on, what your astrological placements are. For me, I'm very prone to mood swings. Like my human design, I have, if you know anything about human design, the emotion center is, the solar plexus. And if you have an activated solar plexus, you're much more susceptible to mood swings, highs and lows, depression, that kind of stuff. Right. So along with the mood swings, something I wrote down here was you may feel overwhelmed with 1 minute you feel so connected, you feel at, one with everything, and then something happens and you're like, fuck humanity, like this shit is stupid, like I don't want any part of this. And that's totally normal. Like don't be hard on yourself. Don't fall too much into identifying, like attaching your identity with any feeling. Like fuck humanity, I hate humanity. Okay, that's fine. You can feel that way. But don't allow yourself to really, don't like tether yourself around hating humanity, right? Like don't allow that to become your identity. And in terms of like, the oneness with everything, and that like the feeling of like joy and elation and peace, that's fleeting, right? That will come, that will go. Again, don't over identify with it. It could be tapping into who you truly are, but because you are in this 3D dimension, or I don't know if we're in the 4D, or who the hell knows what D we're in, but you know, those feelings are fleeting as well. And I mean, they do say, on the path, it's best to kind of stay in a neutral. You want to avoid the fluctuation of moods, and that, and I think that's because most of us can't hide away in a cave and be a monk, to feel one with everything, high up in the mountains so nobody can find us and we're away from humanity. And then obviously you don't want to be bogged down by humanity and totally over identifying with, politics, or, this or that. That's definitely something that I have been evolving on my journey, is this detachment from over identifying with what I believe are the solutions in our society, or the solutions to certain problems that we have. I do believe that I'm a spiritual warrior, but, even identifying with being a spiritual warrior sort of led me down this path of illusion, that has been difficult for me to break out of, especially as I'm on a spiritual journey, because you're like, oh, I'm spiritual, and so this is meant for me, this feels right, this is, my intuition is guiding me. Sometimes, oh, well, it could be your intuition, it could be an ancestor trying to kind of, hop into you and guide you a certain way where they want you to go, right? It could maybe not necessarily always be your higher self, so there's a lot of things at play here, and that's why they say on the path, it is best to stay like in that sort of neutral area. So, again, this is sort of like the expansion of your consciousness is not lining up with your reality, right? And so your expansion in consciousness wants to grow and love and be at one with everything and everyone, and we're all connected, and but your physical reality, this matrix hellscape that we live in. I mean, this is my beautiful little like cozy sanctuary, but society at large is a shit show, and when we look at what's going on, it could really sort of mess with that whole kind of feeling of oneness, and everything is everything, and we're all love, right? We are in a society, a system that has been taken over by, beings that don't have everybody's best and highest good at heart. That just is what it is, right? So, that being said, this disconnect between your expansion in consciousness and your 3D reality sort of, has you fluctuating from, feeling one with everything to, like, fuck this shit, like, get me out of here, right? All right, guys. Number 3 on your spiritual awakening / healing journey is, now in 2022, we have like a greater awareness of, healing modalities, healing from trauma. So this has been, we had the COVID where we were stuck inside, and, a lot of us really had to delve into, our traumas and really begin to heal. So we're understanding ourselves, like I said, maybe through astrology or human design. We might be, doing shadow work, journaling, chakra healing and balancing, listening to healing music, getting rid of toxic patterns, toxic people. So we're doing all of these things in service to our higher self, to become better, to evolve our soul. And so as we're doing all of these things, Spirit is like, okay, bet. I'm going to like just throw something your way and see how you deal with it. Okay, and so that's when you get triggered, right? So if you're not fully healed, and healing is a journey, okay, not a destination, you may be triggered, and you may act out of pocket. You may act out of alignment with, what you've been working so hard to cultivate, which is being in alignment with your higher self, releasing trauma and, healing your inner child, right? So this will invariably happen. Okay, so something will happen. It could be a disobedient or willful child, which I have 2. It could be a narcissistic partner, which I have 1. It could be, just an asinine coworker. It could be you expressing yourself on social media, and somebody who you thought was down for you pretends like they don't see you, right? So this has been very tough, especially since I have an Aries sun, and my sun is in the 7th house, which is partnerships, relationships. Okay, so part of what I'm meant to learn in this lifetime is not over-identifying in relationships. This was something that I had to overcome, like being able to speak my truth and then letting go of expectations, which I have a video about that, which was really a big part of this journey for me. So yeah, you're gonna be triggered, and that's okay. That's why we're here, right? We're here to learn. This planet is a school. Low key, it's turned into a prison, but regardless of whether it's a school or a prison, our soul is meant to learn, grow, and evolve. And we do that by, transmuting the energy, like if we feel like our energy isn't reciprocated, we kind of have to have a sit down with ourselves and be like, okay, well, this wasn't for them. Maybe, maybe they really just did appreciate you when you were less awake. They're not in the same frequency. By the way, there is a great video on here by a YouTuber named Ro Ojim. Is it Ojim? Yes, Ro Ojim. And she did a great video about how to alchemize the energy in relationships. Please check her out. If I can figure it out, I'll put a link to her video in the description box. But yeah, what she talks about, I can totally relate with, and I love how she explains how, not to take it personally when your energy is not reciprocated. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, but yeah, check out her video. And, in terms of like just triggers in everyday life, that's the universe sending you a test. Like, okay, well, did you learn the lesson that you were supposed to learn? Can you handle this? Because we want to give you more, but the only way that we can give you more is that you have the understanding and the overstanding of, how to respond from your higher self in any given situation, right? So, you don't want a king or a queen who's going to pop off, right? So if you are moving into higher self, which in itself is a type of royalty, then you will be tested to see if you are made of the stuff to be considered royalty, right? So, yeah, don't beat yourself up too much about it when you are triggered. The past 2 years since I've been on this journey, I've been triggered. I nearly broke down my son's door because I totally flipped out. I'm not proud of that. I smashed my daughter's mirror, completely lost it several times. And, all I could do was just okay, I got to go back to my meditation. I got to, collect myself. I have to ask myself, okay, where was I triggered? Why was I triggered? Oh, you're trying to control. Oh, you feel like you're not being listened to, just like you weren't listened to as a child. Right? So, reaffirming to my inner child, you are heard, you are loved, you are respected, you are appreciated. Understanding not to take it personally when, my children aren't listening to me. Honestly, nobody triggers me like my children trigger me. And I really think that it does have to do with, inner child, past trauma type of stuff, which I've had to work through. For most people, therapy is a great option. I've tried therapy. I did not like therapy. I feel like for some people, therapy doesn't work for us because, various reasons, right? If you have a situation where somebody really can't relate, if you're a therapist where it's okay, so you've had a trauma, but it's okay, so, you have parents? Oh, okay, so you don't know my situation because I don't have parents. Never did. I had a mom who was schizophrenic, but, and I never knew my dad, and I was raised by my grandparents, which is, that's, a lot of people are raised by their grandparents, whatever. But there's other stuff on top of that where, I don't really want somebody who really can't relate to my experience, trying to help me work through something. And again, that could be my astrology. That could also just be I have to do this on my own. I have to work through and process this stuff on my own. also with therapy, I felt like there was like this, like they were always like trying to like validate me, and it's like, I don't want you to validate me. I need to work through this stuff. And it's like after 8 sessions, if it's like, oh yes, I totally understand how you, oh yeah, 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 like, no, I'm not you. I don't want a yes person. I want somebody who is going to help me work through this stuff. Anyway, I'm not here to complain about therapy. If therapy works for you, that's great. I do believe that therapy, can work for anybody if you find the right therapist. I just never found the right therapist, and I was kind of like sick of trying. So I've had to work through this stuff myself. But long story short, you're going to have to work through this stuff because you will be triggered. You will always be triggered in life. And, it's how you respond really that is sort of indicating to the universe whether you're ready to sort of move forward to the next level. Okay, so for number 4, this piggybacks a little bit on the last point in that, so at this point in your journey, you should really begin to see how the key in life is to really focus on yourself, is to work on yourself. Because when you're triggered, it's very easy to be like, it's them. You did this. Like, you triggered me. Like, you made me mad. You're the narcissist. You're the bad person. Like, you don't listen. You don't appreciate me. Like, you, right? And I see this constantly in society. It's like, it's just constant, right? And even in my own journey, when I'm pointing the finger at, let's say, the colonizers or white people, that's more you talk, right? Racism is a construct that was developed by who knows who, right? Obviously, it's a system that benefits people who classify themselves as white, but we really don't know exactly how it all began and who are really like the puppet masters behind this whole system. Because there's a lot of so-called white people who are messed up in the game, right? And although it's a system of social welfare, white supremacy, so-called white supremacy is welfare basically to white people. There's a reason why this was set up, and it may not have anything to do with the people who are so-called classified as white. They just benefit, right? So I had to stop pointing the finger and be like, you know what am I doing though? What is the constructive value of me even pointing a finger? Like, if I don't like the system, what am I doing to break down the system, right? What am I doing to raise awareness? What am I doing to, help indigenous people reclaim what is theirs? Right? So at some point in the journey, you realize that you need to stop pointing the finger at everybody and start pointing the finger at yourself. So this might include shadow work, journaling, really trying to become aware of your motivations. Are they ego driven, or are they driven from your higher self, right? Am I allowing the energy to move up into my heart space? Am I moving from a heart space, or am I moving from a, murky sacral chakra, which is emotions, right? So if you're wounded emotionally, your sacral chakra is out of balance and needs healing. And it gets very muddy down there, right? So even though you are so-called spiritual, you may be really coming from a wounded place, and it may feel righteous, but it's still not from a place of love, right? Um, so it's important when you get to feeling like you want to blame or point the finger, to kind of see, am I coming from a heart space right now? You know what I mean? Um, that's something that you need to be able to kind of discern for yourself, right? Discernment is a big part of this journey, is being able to discern, like, is this from ego? Is this from my higher self, right? Um, so yeah, you may get into more spirituality, and yeah. Oh, okay. So you also may be less interested in, as you begin to really kind of focus on yourself, self-love, removing self-doubt, understanding that you're a co-creator, right? So all of these things are moving from a place of I am, right? Um, and so you're less interested in the minutia of everyday life. The news may not interest you as much, or like just like TikTok videos. I mean, my husband sends me TikTok videos. I know he's not going to watch the videos, so he sends me TikTok videos. I'm like, okay, hun. I'm like, I don't care. But you know, I might just like thumb up, give it a thumbs up or something, just to kind of like acknowledge that I see it. But really, like that kind of stuff, or even just like, he'll tell me what's going on in the news and politics and this and that, and I'm just like, I really don't care, but that's cool. Number 5, you see synchronicities and signs. You may be seeing, the repeating numbers thing. Like last night, I literally woke up exactly 333. And then today, I went on Jim, the YouTuber I was telling you about. I went on her channel to respond to a video I watched of hers. And I know it was the last liked video. So I went to my liked videos and I noticed there was 333 liked videos. So you may be seeing repeating numbers. You may be also seeing how things represent something symbolically, right? So you may see the symbolic representation in something, so it's other than what it seems. So for example, a flock of crows outside your house, right? So, are those ancestors? Well, they might be. Those might be your maternal ancestors, like sending you a sign that you're on the right track. Whatever you're doing, they approve of. You're on the right track. They're there to support you, right? So you start seeing signs, symbols, synchronicities. And you may find that you can't really talk about a lot of this stuff with people that you know, because they'll think that you are a conspiracy theorist, or that you are totally crazy. And, that's where the journey can kind of feel like a lonely place at times, because there's things that you want to explore and talk about that aren't like the normal things to talk about. But yeah, you can talk about them here, okay? So, let me know down in the comments again if, how this resonates with you. All right, so we're going to move on. Okay, so number 6 is a big one, okay? You begin to appreciate quiet and you begin to see how you want to preserve your peace, that you are less caught up with being right or having the last word. You see the benefits of letting go. You know what I mean? Like not forcing something. You begin to see how silly it is to kind of argue. Although you may still argue, but, that could be for fun. If you have like an Aries sun or moon, you might just want to argue just for fun. Or if you have, if your Mars is in like Gemini, or if your Mars is in Aries, you might just want to argue, just to argue. But yeah, you appreciate mindfulness and moments of stillness. You find comfort in preserving your peace, and you see how really it's the ego that wants to be right. It's the ego that wants to point the finger, and it's higher self that just wants to stand unabashedly in truth, right? So there's one thing to be like, I'm right. This is why I'm right. And then it's another thing to be like, this is what I know. This is what it is. This is my truth. Right? So it's like, your higher self is expressing from a place of, an inner desire to bring forth the truth of your experience, whereas the ego wants to be like, in your face, gotcha, told you so. So there's a distinction there. And when you are in alignment and you're operating from your higher self, you see how, you don't always have to like fight every fight. You don't always have to be, the last one to speak. You don't have to take anything personally. And as a matter of fact, you're not going to take anything personally. You begin to kind of sit as the observer rather than like always kind of being in the fight. You know what I mean? Just like be the observer, and you're like, okay, well, I appreciate that feedback. And I'll take that into consideration, and you move on. Right? So staying sort of like in that calm, neutral zone that we were talking about earlier, you're able to do that more and more. Okay, the next one is number 7, and reconnecting with nature is something that will become increasingly important to you as you go through your awakening and healing. As a child, I grew up in the country, in Western Massachusetts, and, I lived with my grandparents, and they had this huge property where, I would run around in the grass, and there was a pond. I would swim in the pond and come out with like leeches on my feet, and just always out in nature a lot. And I was a pretty happy kid. I was a pretty happy child, despite the perceived challenges and setbacks that I was dealt. I think that being out in nature had a lot to do with why I am so well adjusted. So as an adult, I sort of got away from that and just became like, stressed and anxious and this and that. So when I went on my healing journey, I tried to get out into nature. Not tried, I just was naturally drawn to going out into nature. I would meditate outside. I don't really meditate outside except for maybe on like a full moon or something like that. Um, but, just grounding by walking barefoot. I'm into gardening, so you may have bought some plants or gotten into gardening. You may enjoy going to the beach or going to like lakes or rivers. And it's not just like, oh, you like going to the beach. Like it's a little bit more, like it feels like more significant, right? It feels like an experience, right? Um, Animals may be drawn to you. Um, or you feel like you want to help animals, or you want to like, oh, I want to build some bird feeders, or I want to go out and put out the hummingbird feeders, and you know um, so yeah, just an appreciation for nature. You may feel like you want to hug a tree. So all of these things, this is, again, returning to in alignment with our soul's true desires, right? And our soul does desire to be in harmony with nature. I don't need to belabor the point that we are so out of whack that we completely dump on nature in our society, and it's really, really sad. So yeah, as we're moving into unity consciousness, and we're coming into alignment with our soul and stuff like that, we are going to reconnect with nature more and see the value of nature, of the earth, the abundance that it gives us, that we don't have to scratch and survive. I think that will become more and more evident as time goes on. But anyway, I digress. Number 8, disconnecting from thoughts and feelings. So as you move forward in your healing journey / spiritual awakening, you begin to see how you may have been trapped by, thoughts and feelings that are coming from a place of being conditioned, a place of trauma, you know what I mean? A place of ego, right? So, as you move forward in your journey, you are more in alignment, right? Meaning, you are balancing and healing your energy centers. You more want to kind of move from a heart space, and you see how, certain thoughts and feelings are low vibrational, and are no longer sort of in alignment with, your values any longer. Right. So, for example, we were talking about the sacral chakra earlier. So this is where we might store, this is where your emotions, your ability to identify that you are a being, with a right to pleasure in all areas of your life. This is the place where you transmute feelings of, let's say, like sadness and anger. They're transmuted in the sacral. They need to be transmuted in the sacral chakra. And you transmute by healing, and you heal by, I can't tell you exactly how to do it for you, but so some of the things that you can do, like, is the shadow work, journaling about your experiences, meditating, um, you know, doing like a full moon ritual to release certain emotions. Or, people might say like a cord cutting is good to do on a full moon. So if you want to cut a cord with somebody who kind of hurt you emotionally, a full moon is a good time to do that. Um, Listening to healing frequencies, crystals, obviously, like a carnelian crystal, charging it, setting intentions, programming it, putting it on your sacral area, which is like right below the navel, and wearing orange. um, these are all different ways that you can work to heal the sacral chakra. Um, Doing a visualization of meeting with your inner child, kind of going back to a time when your inner child needed comfort, and like, telling your inner child, like, it's okay, you're okay, I love you, you're valuable, you're valued, it's gonna be all right, right? Reassuring the inner child. These are all ways to kind of cleanse and purify your sacral chakra. Going into water, right? That's another way to cleanse. Going into the ocean, right? Going into like a lake or a river and just in swimming, right? And offering the intention to let go and release, the fear, guilt, and shame, that you might be that might be holding you back, that you might be holding on to. Yeah. So again, disconnecting from thoughts and feelings. So there's a YouTuber on here who said, feelings are great teachers, poor masters. So feelings are there for a reason. Like, we have feelings because they guide us to maybe the right or wrong path. A lot of times our intuition or our spiritual gifts are in being able to feel. Okay, so again, you should know your human design, know if you have an activated solar plexus. If you do, that means that you are here on this earth to feel. Okay, that's part of your utility as a human. If you have an activated solar plexus, is to feel so that you can guide the collective to the right destination. Oh, this doesn't feel right. Next thing you know, there's a volcano going off. Oh, glad we listened to Debbie, who has an activated solar plexus, because, now we're not like melting under the volcano, right? So feelings are definitely useful. The issue is when your feelings are, again, being muddied by trauma of past experiences. All right, so you want to clean up that sacral chakra. You want to have a clear conduit, in which you are being able to kind of accurately discern, from a healed place, right? And not from a place of, woundedness. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, and even then, disconnecting. So, and thoughts are even less reliable than feelings. Okay, thoughts are a lot of times, dictated by ego, or your reptilian brain, which has you in like survivor mode, or has you wanting like, sex, money, drugs, right? Like, you know,
If you make me waste my time like this, I'm gonna be more upset.
Okay, so yeah, disconnecting from your thoughts and feelings. Okay, so allows you to be empty enough to receive from your higher self what are your true desires. Okay, what is your heart's true desire? So when you're not caught up on how you feel or what you think, and you can be still and quiet long enough, you can actually channel what is in your, your heart's true desire. And that will allow you to kind of get on the right path for your soul's purpose, your soul's evolution. Okay, so yeah, I'll leave that there. Number 9. So as you move forward in your spiritual awakening / healing journey, you will find that you are letting go of attachments. Okay, so this is a big one. As you awaken, you realize many of the emotional trappings that you were bound by are due to being attached to a person, being attached to things, being attached to ideas, being attached to a way of being attached to a way of thinking. So when we attach to something, we're really limiting our higher self. We're putting a ceiling on where our higher self can go, and so we're basically saying like, no, that's all you can do for now. You're not going to do any more because my physical self, which is your mind, your body, basically doesn't allow your spirit to really kind of branch out. It puts a ceiling on the spirit and says, nope, you're not going to go any further. I am attached to this thing down here. And, it impacts your ability to transcend. So when we do that, we're basically indicating to the universe, to our higher self, that we don't trust. Okay, so this is really kind of a lack of trust in yourself. It's a lack of trust in the universe or the supreme being, the divine, whatever you believe in, or whatever you believe why we're here. Like if you believe that you're just here to attach yourself to things like a job and a husband or a wife or kids, your house, your car, your dog, your vacations, if that's what you believe, you're not having a spiritual awakening. you're not doing that, because if you're having a spiritual awakening, you see how all of those things are very finite and they're a part of your experience. They're also sort of like part of the play that is this life, right? And we're all actors. Even being attached to your children. I mean, I'm very attached to my children. Like I told you, they were like the number one triggers because I was so attached to them. And I was so attached to the outcome of whatever situation we were dealing with at the moment. I was so attached to the outcome that I flew off the handle. I completely disassociated from my higher self and completely went into, low vibration, ego, all that stuff. And so each time that happened, it was really a reminder like, okay, I need to detach. And again, it was a lack of trust. It was a lack of trust that everything was going to turn out okay. It was a lack of trust that they were going to be okay, that, you know, if I don't do this, I'm not a good mother. I need to prove that I'm a good mother by insisting that this situation happen in this way, right? So it was like an attachment to me being a good mother. It was an attachment to, like, oh my gosh, if they go down this path, like, it's, what's going to happen to them, right? It was an attachment to, all of those things. And it was a lack of trust that things would turn out okay. It was a lack of trust that, despite them not listening or me not being firm, that I'm still a good mother, right? So then you begin to remove self-doubt and trust as you let go of these attachments. Another attachment that I've really had to work on is addiction. I started smoking cannabis when I was like 14, and I do occasionally, but I started sort of quitting in 2020, and then kind of fell back into it, and realized like I have a very addictive personality. I'm not going to go into my astrological placements, but I do have a tendency towards addiction. And with my 12th house, I have Virgo in the 12th house, and my Virgo's in North Node, so my North Node is in my 12th house. And Saturn is in my 12th house. So there's a sense that there's always a vague worry. There's always like a vague worry. There's always like this kind of little bit of doubt, self-doubt. Again, it's so good to know your astrology, because then you can kind of be like, oh, okay, there, if I do have vague worries, if I am a hypochondriac, it might not be stemming from childhood trauma. It could be, this is your blueprint. You are prone to these types of thoughts. You are prone to wanting to escape. So it takes a little bit of like the edge off of who you are when you understand, the blueprint that you came in with, and you're like, oh, okay, well, so I'm always going to kind of have this feeling like, I want to escape, like I want to release the pressure. Like my for example, I'm a human design, my root chakra is not activated, which means I have a tendency to wanting to like release the pressure, okay? The pressure of survival, of life, right? So if you have an open root chakra, again, you could have a tendency to these sort of vague worries, or feeling like, oh, there's never going to be enough, I'm not going to have enough, you know what I mean? This sort of like Depression era mentality. And I was raised by grandparents who came up in Depression era. And so they were very much like, kind of like hoarders a little bit, and just like holding on to money, right? So these are some of the conditioning that I've had to work on, through affirmations and allowing myself to kind of release and transmute these energies. But so right, in terms of addiction, so I was attached to escaping, okay? And I had to let go. And Spirit had been telling me, like, dude, you got to stop, And, I was diagnosed with asthma in like 2017, but, still continued, even like despite my better judgment, even though my intuition was telling me not to, because I was attached to certain things, right? It's a way for me and my husband to bond. So again, hi, Coffee. That's my kitty. He's meowing. Come here, Coffee. I had to detach from, oh, this is a way for us to bond. I need to make sure that our relationship is good. I need to, or for whatever reason, I felt like I was engaging in this behavior, escapism, to shore up my relationship, to kind of release the pressure. I had to detach from needing any of those things. And, I occasionally will participate in such activities like on the weekends, but I've told myself, like, during the week, nope, you're not going to do it, and even with alcohol, the same thing. Number 10, when you are on a spiritual awakening / healing journey, you will find that you begin to walk in your purpose, and you are able to be in alignment such that you can love more fully and deeply, just experience sort of gratitude, for those around you, gratitude for even people who have hurt you and challenged you. Obviously, gratitude for, the earth and the sun and the moon and the stars. You are able to, again, be in alignment so that you are able to operate from a heart space, and therefore you can speak your truth. You can unapologetically and be unafraid in expressing whatever it is you need to express. You can see through the illusion, right? So, being in alignment means a lot of things. A lot of good things. It can also be a little bit lonely and isolating, but, I think part of the reason for that is that, our society is so out of alignment, and we've become so out of alignment, that in order for us to get back into alignment, we need to first bring ourselves into alignment. And so the path almost brings you to a place where there may be a little bit of loneliness or a feeling of not having others, because that's where you need to be. It doesn't mean that you'll always be there, right? So once you're in alignment, and once you are operating from a heart space and tapping into what your heart truly desires, you will begin to walk in your purpose and magnetize towards you people who are right for you, who are like kind of, let's say, your soul family, or, people who will validate you and give you what you want in terms of energetic exchange. If it's prosperity that your heart truly desires, your purpose will lead you there, right? So whatever it is that your heart truly desires, and it's on a subconscious level, right? So, true story, story time. So I did Ancestry. Well, my husband, he got me an Ancestry kit years ago, like in 2017. And, I did it because I didn't know my father. And he just thought it would, it's something that I would want. And I did. It was great. And so I found out, like, oh, okay, a whole bunch of like West African countries. And then obviously, Eastern European Jew was from my mother's side. So, it wasn't really anything that was like super surprising. But, I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. Long story short, years later, last month, I have a first cousin on my father's side who reached out to me. And so, we've exchanged information, and I have a whole grandmother who's 96 years old who's still alive. And my father is no longer alive, but he was a really nice guy, and I have a picture of him, and he's so handsome. And but he was a really nice man and very beloved in the family. So not only is this a blessing, right? This was a dream come true. And it wasn't even something that I was consciously dreaming of, right? A lot of my my magic, or, the intentions that I set for the universe, is to walk righteously and constructively in my purpose. And I don't know why it says click photo booths. Anyway, and so, this is like, honestly, knowing my father's side of the family wasn't even on my radar. But I truly believe it was something that my heart truly desired. And even on a subconscious level or unconsciously, I was manifesting this relationship. And even my relationship with her, I talked to her on the phone. We have so many similarities, like uncanny similarities. And I don't believe in coincidences, and neither does she. And I believe that, she's a part of my soul family. She is a meaningful spiritual connection that I was meant to have in this lifetime. And it's just like a really, really beautiful thing that, like, sometimes you don't even know what your heart truly desires. Only your heart knows what you truly desire. And when you're able to release and let go of baggage and things, and again, walk in, walk in alignment, but like, just being like sort of, true to what you believe in, not putting on sort of like fakeness, for other people, focusing on your healing, focusing on making yourself better. When you're doing all of these things, you're really like letting the universe know, like, yes, I'm ready to receive. And it's a beautiful thing when you do receive. It's a beautiful thing, and, and then again, it gives you even more gratitude, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. I did write, let's see, I said, as the illusion continues to fade, we offer gratitude to Mother Universe, the elemental spirits, the cosmic energies, God, the divine, that all will be as it should be with divine timing. All right, so that is all I've got for you guys today. I hope that you got something beneficial out of this video. Thank you so much for watching the whole video if you made it to the end. Let me know down in the comments what you think about anything that I've spoken about today. And I wish you all the best on your spiritual awakening and your healing journey. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.